Hey, friends. Welcome to today's episode of the Girl Camper Podcast. I'm your co host, Lesa McDermott. Do you have solar on your RV? Have you thought about adding it? Do you have questions about solar? Like, what can it power? How much do you need? Is it worth it? Well, today's episode is for you. I have Eva Mitic, the marketing manager from Go Power, a division of Medek, on with us as our special guest, and she knows everything I think there is to know about solar. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome everybody. I am so excited to have Eva Mitic, my friend from Go Power, on today's episode to tell us everything we ever wanted to know about solar. I know I've got some questions. We put the questions out on Facebook to all of you guys, and we had a lot of questions come in. But before we get started, we're going to take a quick break for a little sponsor message.
Hey, RVers! Any way you explore, explore protected. With Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. They make it easy to quote, and the process takes as little as 4 minutes. Get a quote now. Insure your passion.
All right, we're back, and thank you to today's sponsor. We sure appreciate that. We couldn't be doing these episodes without you, but let's get started on some of the questions that we got here at Girl Camper all about solar. So, Eva, first of all, welcome. Thank you for coming on today's show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about solar. What is the biggest advantages of adding a solar package to your RV compared to other traditional power sources?
Yeah, so that's an easy one. Solar is a renewable resource. It's free energy from the sun, which is great. It's also quiet. So we've all had those neighbors at the RV park or the campsite that has their generator going, 3 or 4 hours while everyone's trying to eat dinner. You don't have to worry about that when you add solar and a decent battery bank to your RV. It reduces the amount of replacements that you have to do on your battery as well, so it extends the lifespan of them. Lead acid batteries, every year or so you usually have to replace them, but adding a solar panel to those usually breaks that to about 5 years for replacement time.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's some very significant benefits there. A lot of people take a look at the initial cost of a solar or and battery system, but the long-term savings over the course of the lifespan of the system is another benefit of it. You don't have to worry about, campsite hookup fees or, bringing around that jerry can for gasoline for your generator. There's a lot of cost savings to be had.
That's really cool. I know my whole unit, my little teardrop is completely solar outfitted, thanks to you and Go Power. And it's definitely it's allowed me to really camp in a lot of places that I wouldn't be able to stay as long as I wanted to, like
Yeah.
out at the Badlands National Park on the Wall, where there are absolutely no hookups.
Mhm.
So I love being solar capable, or not solar capable. I am solar. I am solar.
You cut that wire, right? You don't have to worry about being tethered to where, there's going to be another 50 or 60 people trying to camp at the same time. You can go wherever you want. And the freedom is another benefit of having that solar system on your RV that a lot of people really feel is like underscoring the lifestyle of camping and being able to experience the wild the way it's supposed to be experienced.
I love that, and especially your point about the not having to bring a generator. I think there's nothing more annoying than pulling into a campground. And again, out where I live here in the Black Hills, we have a lot of federal campgrounds that don't have hookups. They don't have electricity. So we do experience a lot of campers that bring their generators. And they're usually very good about turning them off, during quiet time, but even during daytime, I don't want to hear it.
No, or smell it. Like
No.
the fumes they're usually so obnoxious that it's very hard to disconnect and be present when you have the constant smell of diesel or gasoline just being pumped into your area. So that's definitely one of the things that I car camp. So whenever I have my tent hooked, my tent set up, usually having an afternoon nap after a beer by the fire, or by the lake. Yeah, the last thing I want to do is smell gasoline and hear that when I'm trying to have a little nap.
Eva, what factors should an RV owner consider when they're deciding on the size and the type of setup for their needs? Because I think a lot of people want to know, what do they need to power the different things that are in their camper?
That's a great question, and easily one of the most common ones that we get here at Go Power as well. There's many different factors in trying to size a off-grid power system for your RV. The first one being the amount of space that you have on your roof. If you
Mm.
really want to power things like, or if you want to just be able to charge your cell phones, your laptops, your Bluetooth speakers, or run a couple of those string lights at the end of the day, you're not going to need a whole ton of power. Um, the larger items like using your Keurig first thing in the morning, or powering maybe a 12-volt refrigerator, that'll add a little bit more of a requirement for the solar and battery setup that you have in your RV. Um, some of the largest items that we see are residential refrigerators and air conditioners, and people want to know how big of a system is required to be able to run those appliances. Um, I will let you know that it's very difficult to power an air conditioner simply on solar, primarily because the solar component itself doesn't actually run anything. That just charges the batteries while while the appliances are drawing the power from them. So, if you're looking at a larger power system, larger power draws, then you have to kind of consider the amount of time you're going to be going off grid, what type of camping you like to do. So if you're like me, you're only able to really get away for two days a week kind of thing every couple of weeks. You don't really need that much solar, that much battery power to be able to, have your wine cooler
Mhm.
plugged in or anything like that. If you want to go off grid for a week and you want to go down to Arizona for, a week in the middle of the summer, you're going to need something a little bit more significant to help power that air conditioning unit.
Yeah, it is doable though, and I think we're starting to see that more and more, as manufacturers are, I guess, kind of remaking their AC units to make that initial surge. Is my understanding is what really takes the big jump of power. They're putting like soft starts and stuff on them
Yeah.
that are making it easy for the ACs to start up and then run. So that's exciting, and then to think where we'll be in a few years, maybe solar running ACs will be a lot more common
Yeah.
than what we see now. But you are right. That usually takes a big powder bank and a ton of solar panels to be able to do that.
Yeah, it really does. And honestly, if it wasn't for the technology advancements in lithium batteries, which we'll talk about it in another segment, I think that it would just be impossible to run those larger draws. Like I've seen people with 3,000 watts of solar on the roof of their coaches, and 2,000 amp hours of lithium battery, and they're able to run three separate units wherever they go, which is great. They do still have a backup generator just in case to be able to charge those batteries if they need to. But you're right. The technology has been improving so much and so drastically over the last couple of years that it is possible. Right now, it is expensive, and it is very heavy to be able to power an air conditioner off the grid for more than a couple of hours, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing too, when you were talking about some of the other units or appliances and things like that, people need to take into consideration is also their heater, because while their heater may be propane, it still takes electricity to run that fan.
Yep.
And I found that out kind of the hard way a few years ago when I had a very undersized solar system and it didn't even make it through the night. And I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah. There's a couple of things,
Did-
and even something as simple as the light on the inside of your oven is still drawing battery, power from your battery. So, being able to understand exactly where your power is coming from is a huge requirement for even starting to look at replacing that power being drawn from your battery with a solar panel. And realistically, we've got over 1 million solar panels in the market. We've been in the market since 1996. So we've seen every kind of installation that you can possibly imagine. One of the things that we've seen is that a single 200-watt solar panel will generally offset the power draws for your water pump, your furnace fan, your propane alarm, even your integrated lights in your RV for 2 or 3 days if it's paired with a 100 amp hour AGM battery. So that's pretty good. And that's most of what people start out with. And that's kind of another benefit of adding solar to your RV is that you can start small and really just increase the power requirements or increase the power that you have as your requirements increase.
Very good point. Very good point. And I need to point out too, on the Go Powers website, you guys have some excellent resources and some online worksheets that really help people figure out how much do they need. You plug in, what your appliances are, how long do you think you're going to run them, and it does all the calculations for you. And then if you still have questions, your online customer support is really good. They're very quick at responding. In my experience, and same with phone calls. And I just love that when I've called to have some pretty basic questions, and even some non-basic questions, and they've been great to work with. So if anybody has any questions on how much solar they may need for their unit, I would encourage them to go to your website, to Go Power's website. And we'll put links in the show notes for it, but to check it out there.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. The interactive calculator, the solar sizing calculator that we have on gopowersolar.com was a bit of a passion project for me. I saw too many people walking around with clipboards and spreadsheets. I'm like, no, something has to be done to make it a little bit easier. So we created that, and we're actually looking to improve that a little bit more in Q1 of 2025. We've got new features that are going to be released.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'm the kind of person that, I can figure it out, but I don't want to. Just tell me what I need.
Yep. And that's one of
And
the
for me
better
to like,
parts about people like learning about solar is that, it is a highly technical subject, and most people are just like, just tell me what I need to know.
exactly. And there's so many, especially in the newer campers, are already coming solar
Mhm.
ready. So can you kind of explain what that means to someone?
Yeah, sure. So you'll see in some of the newer builds, and actually some going back about, we started doing RV manufacturer partnerships about 10 years ago. And so we figured that it would just be so much easier for people to install the stuff when they don't have to worry about running the wires and the walls. That's always the hardest part. So we've partnered with some a lot of the RV manufacturers in the industry to make that adding solar component way easier than it used to be. So there's two different types of solar preparation that you'll see at the RV dealerships. The first one is going to be on the side of the RV, kind of close to the battery at the front. And so it's usually on bumper poles and those types of things, and that's what we call solar on the side, which means that unit is already wired into the battery area for you to plug in a portable solar panel, and then you've added solar officially to your RV. Very simple plug and play units that have the solar panel and a solar charge controller to make sure that your battery doesn't get overcharged, already in one box with all the wiring. So you buy your RV, you pick up a portable solar panel, and whenever you set up camp, you put the portable solar panel on the ground, you plug it in, and then you're off to the races. Personally, I would recommend adding a bike lock to it because sometimes they grow legs and walk away. But it's definitely a really easy introduction to adding solar to your RV, and it's pretty painless in terms of price points. You'd be going between a $500 to $600 price point for a small portable solar panel kit with a charge controller. So that's the first
Right.
type. The second type is going to be the solar prep on the roof. So that means that the RV that you're looking at, it has already had the solar wiring go from the roof down into an area where the solar charge controller should be installed. The manufacturer would have done that wiring at the factory level, so you don't have to worry about it. And it's already properly sized to accommodate up to 600 watts of solar on the roof, which is 3 solar panels.
So you were just telling us about the first type of solar ready campers. What is the second type?
The second type is for roof mounted solar panels. So the RV manufacturer would have put what's called a cable entry plate, which is a waterproof entry point for the solar cables that are already run at the factory level down into the walls of the RV. So if you're adding on a solar panel to your roof, it's super easy. You just add the solar panel to the roof, plug the panel into the ports on the top of the RV, and then that will run down into the area where you put in your solar charge controller. So the installation time for a single solar panel would go from 2 to 3 hours when you go into adding the wiring and running those wires in your RV, to about an hour.
So you've mentioned some different components here: solar panels, charge controllers, batteries. Can you kind of explain them a little bit more, what they are, and yeah, how they make a complete RV solar
Yeah,
system?
absolutely. So, like most systems, there are different components that are required to make an efficient mobile power system actually function and do for you what you expect it to do. Solar panels inherently are just battery chargers. They just collect power from the sun and convert it into DC energy. That DC energy then goes down into a solar charge controller. The charge controller is kind of like a fuel shutoff valve at a gas station. And then that basically just keeps your battery from getting overcharged by the power of the sun. And all of that power
Okay.
goes directly into your battery, which is like your gas tank on your car. So the bigger your gas tank, the more power you're going to have, and the power from the solar panel will flow into that through the solar charge controller.
Okay.
And that power that's in the battery there, that's being able to power your things like your lights, your slide outs, your furnace fan, your water pump, everything that's inherent or that's already installed on your RV from a factory level.
And you need those three things basically: the battery, the charge controller, and the solar panel.
Correct. Yep. And that's the basic that and that's a basic solar system. If you want to start,
Okay.
being able to use your outlets off the grid or plug in your kettle for your tea in the morning, have your wine fridge, like I said, plugged in and ready for a fun night out on the camp, then you're going to have to add a power inverter in there as well. And that takes
Okay.
the power that is in your battery and actually translates it into what you would see at home.
So your coffee pots and things like that.
Exactly. Yep.
Got it.
Most campers will have, excuse me, will not have a power inverter installed at the factory level. That's something that you usually have to add yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, I know, like, my little teardrop does not, even though it's all solar, it does not have an inverter. It does have, which is nice, that I can still charge my phone and stuff
Yes.
on solar, but, yeah, to run a coffee pot, I use a little portable power pack that I can just plug that coffee pot in, but
Yeah.
that works great
There's
for me.
a couple manufacturers now that are putting like the USB ports into the DC system, which is great. So you can keep your phone and your speakers charged on the road without having an inverter involved, which is awesome. And there are a couple of other components, but they get really technical very quickly. So we're not going to talk about those. But if any of the viewers want to go check those out, they're on gopowersolar.com.
Perfect. Cool. This has been great. Before we continue on with some more questions, we're going to take another quick break to thank our other show sponsor today, Lippert Components, Curt Manufacturing. And we'll be right. Curt Echo Mobile Brake Controller is a world first mobile Bluetooth brake controller that can give you an entirely new towing experience. It's easily plug and play into your RV wiring harness with no tools required. It connects wirelessly and syncs with your smartphone to control and monitor all trailer brake activities. Its compact, portable design allows for easy transfer from one vehicle to another and convenient storage when it's not in use. Check it out in the complete family of Echo units to find the best fit for your towing setup. All right, we're back. Thank you, Lippert. We appreciate you guys. So, Eva, next question. What are common mistakes that you see first-time solar buyers making and that could be avoided?
One of the first I've already mentioned is portable solar kits, not locking them up properly. If you have a portable solar panel on the side of your RV, highly recommend just go pick up even one of those metal dog leash things and just make sure it's tied down. Just because it's attached to your RV doesn't mean it's not going to grow legs and walk away. Um, that was the biggest mistake that one of my colleagues had made, or one of my friends had made. And their $500 just went on a walk on his first camping trip. But in terms of solar
Mhm.
sizing, which is I think what a lot of people are most interested in, a lot of people assume that you really have to go fully into solar right away, which is not always accurate. You can kind of dabble in it at the beginning, upgrade your your battery from a regular lead acid to an AGM battery, something that's a little bit less maintenance. You can update or you can add a solar panel on your roof and see how it works for you. You really don't have to do, hours and hours and hours of research at the very beginning. You can speak with your RV dealer, do a little bit of, watch a couple of YouTube videos. Again, Go Power Solar is a great resource to try and figure out what you need. But I think people tend to look at it as a little bit more complicated than it really is. Yes, it's a technical system, but the solar component, the solar, the start charge controller, and the battery, those three things, very easy to grasp. And I think that people might make solar out a little bit more of a not a bad guy, but more of a highly technical subject where it might not be. Um, the other thing that people have a tendency of making a mistake is once they do decide to go solar is that they cheap out on the wire gauge. So the size of the wire that you use to install your solar kit um, definitely matters. If you use really cheap, really tiny wire, it's going to take so much longer for the power generated from your solar panel to get to the battery. So think about it like pipes in your house. Your plumbing, if you've got something that's the size of a pencil, the water is going to take so much longer to get from the water tank to your taps. Same thing with the solar panels, same thing with the battery. Definitely take a look at the recommended wiring gauges by the manufacturer. Thankfully, Go Power solar kits come with the properly sized wire gauges with the solar kits. Battery manufacturer, same thing. Go Power, we give you the recommended wiring gauges to make sure that you get the best out of your system.
That's interesting. I never even thought about that, but that makes total sense. My husband and I, we own a construction company, so I understand completely what you're saying on that. So very good point. Good point.
Thanks.
Eva, how do weather conditions and geography affect solar panel performance in an RV setup?
They definitely drastically impact the power generated by the solar panels. For example, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and the amount of power that a single panel would be able to generate here versus, in Arizona is very, very different. Excuse me. Um, when accounting for like shady and cloudy conditions, you can usually assume that you're going to be generating between 10 and 30% of the rated wattage for any solar panel. So for example, if you have an RV that has a 200-watt solar panel on the roof and you're living in Oregon, you're probably going to get a little bit lower of a performance than, like I said, you would for somebody that's in Arizona. Um, when you're trying to account for the area that you're in when you're sizing your solar system, you can generally assume that throughout the summer you can have safely 6 hours of full sun per day that will be able to generate full power from your solar panels, and that's basically out of a give or take a 12 hour sunlight day. But being able to size your system with that time frame in mind is very important, so you're not undersizing your system for where you are.
What are tips for maintaining and troubleshooting your RV solar system? Besides, if you have a troubleshoot, getting on Go Power's customer support.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. So
They are.
maintaining the system is actually really easy. It's not necessarily a set it and forget it type of system, but it's pretty easy when it comes to maintaining your system. For the solar panels, make sure they're not dirty. A lot of people have a tendency of just thinking that because they're driving down the road that the wind will just wisp all of the dirt off of their solar panels. Unfortunately, being outside all the time, you also have to deal with bird poop. You have to deal with sap coming on the solar panels and things like that. So if you get up there once every month and a half, give or take, if you're an avid camper in the middle of the summer, just take a hose and a soft cloth and wipe it down. I highly recommend at the beginning of your season as well to make sure that the mounting feet on your solar panel are properly torqued, just to make sure there's no wobbling or anything like that while you're driving down the road. In terms of troubleshooting, one of the biggest things that you'll see is if you're dewinterizing your camper, for example, maybe a wire got loose, double checking your connections. Well, if you're seeing an error code on your solar controller, if you're not seeing the power that you normally would, double check your connections at the battery, double check your connections behind the solar controller, and make sure nothing got, wobbled or loose or anything like that. Torque everything down, make sure it's all tight and good to go. And then, like you said, either pop on to gopowersolar.com or give us a shout and we'll be able to help troubleshoot that for you.
Very cool. Now, this might be kind of a silly question, but if you're not camping over the winter and would you recommend people covering those solar panels, if they're covering their RVs, but should if they have solar, does that factor in that maybe they really should be putting a cover over their RV to kind of protect it from snow loads or anything like that? Is that something that's important?
It really depends on your location. If you're going to be keeping your RV outside in the snow, then absolutely have it covered. You can unplug the solar controller from the battery. You can unplug the panel connections from the back of the controller as well. I wouldn't worry too much about snow loads. We hail test all of our solar panels at 51 miles an hour, so I don't think a couple pounds of snow over the course of the winter is really going to be that big of a deal. But in terms of winterizing your RV, it really, like I said, depends on how you're going to be using it. If you want the solar to trickle charge the battery over the winter, then you're going to have to keep the panel clean. You can keep everything connected to the battery. And that's what a lot of people tend to do to make sure that their battery is, ripe and ready to go when they decide that they're going to go on their first camping trip in the spring. They want to make sure that their battery is topped up because I know from firsthand experience, the last thing you want to deal with when you're trying to get out the door, you've got your kids in tow, your dog's at the end of the driveway. You don't want to have to go back and plug your RV in and wait a couple hours for the battery to get recharged. So there's arguments to be said about unplugging everything, and there's arguments to be said about having your solar panel work for you over the winter. Again, it really depends on the person.
Yeah. For me, I leave everything plugged in because my little camper is my happy place.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And sometimes we just sit on the bed and watch a little TV or something.
100%. I know people that use it as their home office as well. So like, again, it really what works for you.
So, Eva, what is the expected lifespan of an RV solar system? And besides some of the maintenance tips that you just give, are there things that people can do to help extend that lifespan?
Absolutely. So the solar panel, it's like I had mentioned, there's the three different components of the system. You've got the solar panel, the solar charge controller, and the battery. So those are all going to have different lifespans. The solar panel itself, if you're talking about the aluminum frame glass panel, that's going to be 25 years plus. It's going to outlast your RV and it's going to outlast whatever vehicle I intend to tow with it. The solar charge controller usually has a lifespan of about 5 years. Most have a 2-year warranty on it, but the lifespan is about 5. And
Hmm.
then the battery itself, depending on the chemistry you're looking at. So again, we'll talk about lithium a little bit later on. That has a life expectancy of between 10 and 15 years. An AGM battery would usually last between 3 and 5 when as a part of a solar system. And a lead acid battery with probably about 2 or 3 years as a part of a solar system as well.
Interesting. And I apologize if you answered this on the flexible solar panels. What's the lifespan on those? Because that's what you sent me.
Very good point. Yeah. So those guys are warranted for 5, but the lifespan, if you're careful about tree branches and stuff like that when you're camping, usually between 7 and 10 years.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. Sorry, I missed that in my list.
So the big question too, let's talk about the realistic cost expectations for a full solar package. And what can a person expect to pay for, let's say, a basic solar package without an inverter, one with an inverter, and how does that compare then to, not having one, I guess, over time, which kind of would be kind of a hard question to answer because it's not like unless you're plugged in at home and monitoring your electrical bill.
Well, there's a couple different ways to answer that. And like I said before, solar is not really we can't do a one size fits all for everybody. Every camper is going to be different. We can have 2 families with the same camper that camp in drastically different ways. So in terms of cost
Mm.
expectations, you can run anywhere from, $1,000 for a very basic solar system and an AGM battery to upwards of $10,000 for a full, you know, your whole roof covered in solar with a battery bank that would, be able to run a residential refrigerator and power an air conditioner. So, and even 10,000 is probably a little bit low on that scale. So, what I would recommend is taking a look at your power requirements and being able to kind of have an idea of the size of the system that you're looking for. You can get pretty close for, say, a family of 4 if you're only working or if you only want to have your lights and your slides and your slide outs and your water pump and
Mm.
those types of things for the weekend. Then you can definitely get away with a single solar panel system and a battery upgrade to an AGM battery, which would again be around $1,000. And then again, going back to the scalability of solar, you can add things like the power inverter to get your coffee maker going in the morning, which would be another between $500 and $600. Um, and if you want to start off kind of mid-range, I think you'd be looking at about $5,000 for a solid lithium power system, lithium battery with a 2-panel power system with a power inverter.
Gotcha. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. And so sorry,
And
I didn't answer the second part of your question. To think about the longevity of those components and the return on the investment side of things for your RV. If you think about how much money you spend per night at the campground, for plugins, for example, that would be between $30 to $60 a night, depending on where you camp. Um,
or more.
exactly, or more. And the area that you camp in and the fact that you would have neighbors constantly and these types of things, if you're really valuing that sense of freedom and you really want to kind of offset those park camping fees, just take a look at how many nights you spend in your RV, multiply that by 3 to 5 years, and then you get the cost of what you're going to be spending just on park fees, not including the gas for the generator or the other items that you need to pay for. And that'll give you a good idea of what your budget would be for that 5-year kind of lifespan for the majority of that basic power system.
That's a great way to think about it. Definitely.
Or
What are some things that when people are shopping around for solar systems, that they should be comparing with different brands? I mean, I'm assuming warranty is a huge one.
yes, definitely.
There's probably some very low cost solar panels or systems out there, but they probably have not much of a warranty when you actually start to look at it. Are there other things that people should consider?
Yeah. So the warranty is, I think, one of the biggest things, especially with the price point that you're looking at going into. I think we've all seen like the Amazon $100 solar panels that go for, that get delivered to your house the very next day. And solar is really one of those things where you get what you pay for. So the build quality is going to be lower on those cheaper ones. The warranty is very likely not going to be able to be um, honored, if anything happens over the next couple of years with that cheaper solar panel. And that's one of the things that I kind of warn people about because when you're buying things that are A, generating electricity and B, that you're really relying on to power your lifestyle, it's not one of those times where you really want to cheap out. What we say is buy
Mm.
once, cry once. So if you're looking at if you're looking at doing taking the plunge into solar, yeah, absolutely. Fill your boots if you want to test it out with the cheap solar panels off of Amazon. But if you're looking to do something with a little bit more longevity, highly recommend spending a little bit of money up front.
Yeah, and good luck on the cheap ones finding good customer support.
Yeah, no, I've heard a lot of horror stories about those for sure.
Well, Eva, this has been really informative. Thank you so much for coming on. We're also going to do another episode just on lithium batteries, which I think partners really well with this episode. Because to me, if you're going to have a solar system, the lithium goes kind of hand in hand. It's like peanut butter and jelly.
Yep.
So I look forward to talking to you about that too. So, but thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, that's our show for today. And I want to thank Eva Mitic from Go Power Solar from coming on today and talking to us about all things solar. I know I learned a lot, and I really appreciate her taking the time to come on and talk to us about different aspects of having a solar system. Thanks for watching or listening if you're podcasting. And if you did enjoy today's show, don't forget to tap that like button and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any episodes. Connect with Girl Camper online through our website, Facebook, Instagram. Be sure to check out all of the events that Girl Camper Guides have lined up for us and come join us into the fun. Also, think about signing up for our Girl Camper magazine. Until next time, I'm Lesa McDermott, and I will catch you by the campfire.